it's a challenge you'll have if you buy smaller businesses. So the business I bought, it's $1 million in revenue when I bought it. You're gonna have to be in the weeds doing operations, but I wish I had spent a lot more time and like mastered my financials first before making any other change. If we're rolling out Service Titan, changing to flat rate pricing, phone cloud, any of that nonsense, understand your financials first. And I did not do a good job of that. So
welcome to the Lead In Podcast, where we dive deep into genuine stories of leaders who've seized control of their journey. This podcast is brought to you by Lead Hub, your growth partner for the trades. And now, let me kick it over to our guy, Austin Lenny.
Guys, we see, hold on one second. We have a big problem here because the new qualification for a real-time operator is if they look like they're in a bomb shelter, right? Or in a padded room. So the question is what am I now that I got the fancy stuff behind me?
So to be fair, I do have
okay.
There is one piece of art that's going up. I put it in here on Friday and I haven't hung it up yet.
Dude, true story. I'll go in late and I've given some of my pictures to the team, sales guys, project managers, and they'll go weeks without hanging it up, and then I'll just go in one night and I'll hang it all up. And I'm like, you know, you got to put it on the wall. You know what I'm saying?
You got to do something with it.
So listen, other funny story, and I only relatable because me and this guy are going to talk about real life business. So there was a report out, I don't know where I read it, that if a salesman or a team member has a window in their office, they're 60% more productive or something like that.
60%.
Yeah, something like that. So we built 3 more rooms for our sales guys because they didn't have offices before, but they didn't have any windows. And so one day we just had the guys go in with a saw and just cut through the freaking building and throw in some windows. I was like, we're ready to race, baby.
So did you actually compare it though? Do you have like a before and after? Is there a metric
no,
in Service Titan somewhere?
They're a lot happier. That's for damn sure. So, well, my man, we got you here. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, a little backstory, and then we'll get rolling from there.
Yeah, my name's J.D. Beck. Let's see here. I'm from Alabama originally. Moved out west after college. Spent a few years in the Army and then got out. Of all things, after the military, I had a career in commercial elevators, an obscure little industry, but oddly a really good one. Anybody out there getting out of the military, it's a great little industry. That took me to San Francisco, Phoenix, and then back to Denver. Did about just under a decade, about 8 years in that industry, and then decided to buy a business. It's been about a year searching and found the first company, Mountain Valley Plumbing and Heating. It was in Estes Park, Colorado. Bought that in June of 22, and then just have kind of been on a tear ever since. Didn't really mess with it too much for the first 6 months. And then we did the whole thing, rolled out Service Titan, flat rate pricing, expanded our market, expanded our service area, bought some other companies as roll-ups. I bought a small one-man shop in northern Colorado in January of 23, and then wound up doing another sizable acquisition of a company, believe it or not, called J.D.'s Plumbing out of Denver in September of 23. So all 3 we operate now through the Mountain Valley brand. Our headquarters is in Longmont, Colorado, and then we've increased our revenue. So when I bought it, we were doing about $1 million of revenue. We'll be just shy of $5 million this year. So in 2 years, about 4.5x our revenue.
So I always am a man that likes to walk my own path. So we're going to cover some different things that you probably haven't covered in other podcasts. When you were you working when you were searching?
Yes, full time.
Okay. So one of the things, and look, all respect in the world, okay, but I don't get it. I don't know why people feel like they need to convince their wife, quit their jobs, move in with their in-laws to search for a business.
You don't.
No. I search for businesses every day. So, walk us through how you were working, but you were also searching, because I think people should keep their jobs because the stress of not working is going to eat at you and you're going to feel the pressure. And I feel like you're going to make a decision that you shouldn't when it comes to buying a business.
Yeah, there's already enough pressure to buy a business that maybe you shouldn't buy. But especially if you're not getting some income coming in, I couldn't imagine the strain. Plus, I mean, it took me, it was a solid, once I started probably in June of 21 searching and didn't actually take the reins of a business until June of 22. So it was a full 12 calendar months to get this thing done. I don't have that kind of money to sit around and wait, and at some point you're going to start dipping into your nest egg or something like that, which is your down payment. And it really, so I did have one advantage. I was in a role that was like a outside supervisor type of role. So my job, I went into the office probably 10, maybe 20 hours a week, and then the rest of it was on the road going to job sites. And so I was able to like sneak in a business visit or schedule a call with a broker or something like that. So I had a bit more of schedule flexibility. I think if you're a guy where you're working out of a cubicle 40 hours a week, where your boss wants to see you physically present for those 40, you might struggle a little bit more, but 40-hour week job, man, is not that big of a deal. You can throw in another 10 or 20 on top of that searching for a business. And it's something I would recommend. Don't stack the deck in your favor. Don't put a timeline on yourself, because at some point you're going to run out of cash, and that's not good.
Yeah, I love that. And so you're sitting here now, you go from 1 million to 5 million, and everything's easy and it doesn't matter. I'm making a joke, but
super easy. Anybody can do it.
But if you had if you had advice to yourself, when you started, when you first purchased the company, what would you tell yourself? What would you tell that guy?
So I was way too operationally focused, and I think it's a challenge you'll have if you buy smaller businesses. So the business I bought, it's $1 million in revenue when I bought it. You're gonna have to be in the weeds doing operations, but I wish I had spent a lot more time and like mastered my financials first before making any other change. If we're rolling out Service Titan, changing to flat rate pricing, phone, cloud, any of that nonsense, understand your financials first. And I did not do a good job of that. So
everybody I've talked to since, they probably get a little bit annoyed with me saying it, but I'm like, master QuickBooks. Once you master QuickBooks, then we can talk about Service Titan. But until then, make sure that you really understand your financials. For our type of businesses, they should be an accrual-based set of financials. You should have a P&L by the 5th of the month, if not sooner, because you're moving so fast, you've got to understand this stuff. And really what that probably comes down to is you doing your own books for a few months so that you understand at least what you're trying to delegate to somebody else.
Yeah, and for me, same story. I don't have control of the finances as my CEO. Former CEO handles that aspect of it. I'm more on the front seat. But what I'm doing for the last year and a half is teaching myself P&Ls, teaching myself accounting. If I could give any advice, our company's too big for me to do this. But if your company's, $1 million or 2 million, you should be your bookkeeper for a couple months.
You should do it for a couple of months.
You should.
I did it.
And you
finally broke down this year.
And you should hate it. And you should hate it. You should. It sucks. But
it
I'm
sucks.
telling you, you'll come from that the best operator you've ever seen.
Best time I ever committed. So we did it in the spring of this year. I finally broke down and I've got an MBA. Like I can look at a P&L and kind of figure it out, but the actual mechanics of building your financials, now I know what CFOs do. I remember, back when I was in like an operational W-2 job, I was wondering, what does a CFO actually do? Like, do they there's a set of financials every month? How much is there really to talk about? No, they do a lot, it's almost as much work to build your financials as it is to like design a sales process. But it's work that is, if we want to be business owners and not operators, it's work that you have to master. And it really took me, I think I wound up doing about 2 or 3 months just manually. And it was during a slow season. So like in this business, February, March, April can be kind of slow. And so I took advantage of that time and just taught myself QuickBooks the hard way. And it's the best bit of time I've spent.
And so Rich Strong said something to me the other day that was he said the hardest thing about being an owner or CEO of a small business is that your role and your focus changes every 3 months, 2 months. And
that is a good way to
put
it.
So true, because now that you're talking about it, I'm saying to myself, if I bought a $1 million business, I would be HR for a couple months too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like like these are the things that, and people think I'm crazy when I post about this, but I'm like, if it were me, I would have got the employee handbook right first. I would have got the employee contracts right. I would have done the bookkeeping, like before I worried about sales, before I worried about any of that stuff.
Yeah, because there really is such a thing as bad revenue. And I think you don't understand that until you really understand your financials. Like I was looking at a business last week and they were saying, oh, everything's great. We got a $4 million job we're about to land. And I'm like, man, that $4 million job could actually really hurt you if it's not sold. I mean, that's a
Um,
huge red flag,
um,
you know?
um, in the middle of it, in the middle, 2.23. I'll be
Yeah.
out. We'll be out in 7 months, and we don't want anything to do with it. We're not going to
Yeah.
make any money.
It's
It's
awful.
been the biggest nightmare. It's been the big. This job pulls my energy more than our other 150 jobs that we'll do in a year this year.
Well, and like that's one thing, but what if it's at a 10% gross margin or something that's not worth doing? You know, then you've got bad revenue on the books that I mean, it can sink you financially for a whole year, you know? I mean, if you're trying to sell your company, trying to exit in the near future and you've got $2 million, not saying you have 2 million, I'm sure you don't, but if you had $2 million of bad revenue on it, reset your 3 year clock, man. Like it's not going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So,
it's
but
funny,
like you
right?
wouldn't understand
So
that though if you didn't understand your
yeah.
financials, and that's what I'm
Well,
saying. Like, well,
I tell
maybe,
all those people time commercial work, that's for your ego, and residential work is for your sanity.
yeah, yeah. We used to take on jobs back in elevators that would be, I mean, heck, so I was not personally a part of it. Like we took on some work at the World Trade Center towers, like the new rebuilt one. It's a big flagship job for the company. The company's a global industrial conglomerate, so they're super excited about it. But it was at 0%. Like they did it. I'm sure they made good money on the back end. There's a there's a reason they do this stuff, but a lot of it was ego for sure.
And so you made a point to say some of this stuff you don't understand, until you're in the side of a business. And I agree 100%. I think it's easy to say that the business you would have bought when you were searching to the business that you would buy now are two totally different things, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, I was even talking to my general manager about this today. I'm like, I think I'm done buying companies. I want to grow mine internally, unless X, Y, and Z company came for sale. You know. But yeah, I mean, what
Mhm.
you're looking for changes a lot too. Back to your original point. I think if you were trying to just like survive on your savings, this kind of goes the other way, right? You get to the end of your savings road, and you're just jumping at anything. Yeah.
Mhm. And so, what? Who have you had to become to go from 1 million to 5 million? Like, what parts of yourself did you have to grow?
Um, you know, the part of myself that uh you become a bit more of an asshole. I don't know how else to say it, but like you know, you become the guy, like everybody knows that business owner, right? That's just like, wow, that guy's a dick. And I worry that I'm becoming that some days. Like you like suddenly everything's a lot more real for you. There's no more room for fairy tales and oh, we'll give this kid a chance because he's a nice kid or something. Like, no, it's my money in a checking account, and we're not going to screw this up, and give somebody a chance that doesn't. I don't know. You just turn into a lot more of a hard nosed person, and I think that's just something.
Mhm.
I don't know. It happened to me back in my civilian or back in elevators. It happened to me in the military. Like you kind of turn into a different person as you get acclimated to this business. Being a small business owner, you just become a hard nosed individual. It's um yeah, it's not for the weak or the faint of heart, and just prepare yourself to do it. But at the same time, like you're running a bigger company, and I say that you become kind of an asshole. You're also providing a living for now nearly 20 people as opposed to like five. It's you become a lot more serious, I would say.
Does it concern you that you left some of that
some of
I'm
your
just, it's
empathy
just
behind.
honest.
Um,
Yeah, like
yes and no. There's a like you got to find a spot for that in the world, but it's not necessarily in your business, right? Like this is
mhm.
business. Finding empathy is a good thing to find in church if you're a religious person, or the gym or something else, right? But when it's when debt service is due, you got to make it.
Let me give you an as is because
Okay.
it's like in the moment for us. There's a person that I found who is absolutely amazing, very skilled, um, great at what they do. Got laid off, experience, could crush it, single mom, needs a job. If I hired her where we are right now, she would uproot my entire one area of my company. Not because she would be bad at her job, but she would be so good at her job that she would rub everybody the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of politics in the midst of that, and there's a lot of reasons why. And I really want to help her out, and I really want her to work for us, but it's just not the right time. And so I told her that. I was honest as hell. I said, in a year from now, I could probably hire you and everything would be fine. And she appreciated the honesty. But that was the grown up part of me, because every other part of me would love to give her an opportunity because I think she would crush it. But just knowing the mental makeup of the culture, it would just destroy that part of the company.
Yeah, it's I think we all want to be liked, and we're in a position where you could make less than perfect decisions for your business, but people would like you more. And that's not what we're here for. You know what I mean? Like, and I have to
Yeah.
remind myself
Yeah.
that, often that I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to, produce shareholder value for one shareholder, me and Mrs. Beck. And that's what we're here to do. And if I have to not be liked, or if I have to yell at somebody or have a hard conversation, then that's what you got to do. The other thing, like, there's a saying that somebody told me once that I'm gonna butcher this. I'm gonna power through it. Right, like the difference between where you are and where you want to be in life is a certain number of very difficult conversations. And
Yes.
just have the difficult conversations. I've been really surprised. I haven't really had too many people. I mean, people cry and stuff, but I haven't had too many people like everybody's understood. You know,
Yeah.
this is the
Well, it's
Green
interesting, right?
Berets,
I
man.
think
Like
that
we're not here to be liked. We're here to do what we do.
I think that the overall standard of what I see, this is what me and my CEO deal with all the time. Is like him and I just move different. Like we're just like we don't need motivation. I don't need anybody to tell me
Yeah.
I'm doing a good job. Like I'm here for my own reasons. They're bigger than anybody could ever imagine. It's to change things and people and communities and companies. Like, so I don't need that. But I have to remind myself that not everybody's built like that.
Yep.
And so you have to meet people where they are, but that doesn't mean I have to let them have excuses. Because hear me out. I really don't care about anything else. I don't care if it's your first day on the job, it's your 90th day on the job. If you show up, you smile, you show up on time, and you show up to work, the rest of the stuff we can figure out.
Largely true.
And so when you're growing a company and you're trying to scale, how do you budget in your mind, needing the people, which I think forecast like ahead of revenue is the hardest type of hiring that exists, especially in the trade. How do you balance wanting to grow with making sure you have the cash to bring on new people and so on and so on?
Well, so you got two expenses really. You have like there's a gross margin expense, right? So labor I consider a gross margin, or a labor is a cost of goods sold in my world, and then that kind of takes care of itself in my opinion. Like with the way we've got our pay plan structured and stuff, like our labor, it's not always productive, but it's usually productive, I would say. And then you have your overhead, which I think really strikes at the heart of your conversation. So those are people like your CSRs, your managers, those kinds of things. I actually I I try to hire behind revenue. So I try. So this sounds awful.
Okay.
But this sounds awful, and
I've never heard this. I've never
this
heard
this
this one before. So
this
I'm very
sounds
excited.
awful, but I'm going to power through it. Right? I think that honestly, you should be running the office staff so hard that like it's not a desperate hire, but like by the time you actually hire somebody to bring back into the office, it's like a breath of fresh air, right? Like you're running the office to the point where failure is occurring, where it's clear that somebody cannot handle the workload that's on their plate, and then we begin the search for a replacement. So, case in point, we just brought on a dedicated plumbing manager. I had a guy, he like held the license, but he wasn't really like a plumbing manager type, right? Just field tech that had the license, and my general manager has a very strong HVAC background, but very weak on plumbing. He'll tell you that himself. So we ran the plumbing department or the whole company really until it became clear that by not having this plumbing manager on staff, we were actually costing ourselves revenue or costing ourselves gross margin, and that bringing that person on would then improve the business. So that's more my philosophy. I don't like to hire a manager and then just sit around with their twiddling their fingers. It's like, hey man, we need you today. Let's get you going. And then whenever they show up, they've kind of like there's value for them to find in the first couple of months. Just it's there, it's right in front of them while they're learning their job. There's easy spots to pick up value for the company for them, and then they can get more expertise from there. Like marketing, same kind of thing, right? Like I try to run it maybe not behind revenue growth, but just barely ahead, because like the last thing you want to do is burn a bunch of money on marketing because you don't know what you're doing with it yet. I don't know. Like that's the way I've scaled it. It hasn't been perfect, but it does keep your overhead low, which is something critical for running these businesses.
And as you're going up to 5 million this year, like what does your team look like? If you don't mind taking a quick minute, like
yeah, sure.
CSR, dispatcher, like what does that look like?
So we have 3 CSRs. Those are the easy ones. They all kind of run their own. So I don't have a separate dispatcher and a CSR. People advocate for that. I feel like at my size, a dedicated dispatcher doesn't make sense. So we have what I call like high-powered CSRs, right? So I have 2, very experienced ones and a third one that's kind of learning her role. And they can all dispatch, but then between me and my 2 managers, we watch it very closely. So that's how we do it. Take that for what you will. And then managerially, there's me. I call it like a phasing out general manager type of role where I'm in the office most, if not all, of the day, but I'm trying to let my field managers make as many of these decisions as possible. I step in where a customer needs to escalate something or whatever, So on the operational side, I'm trying to step myself out, but it takes time to do that. And then I have 2 field managers. One for HVAC and boilers. I consider boilers part of HVAC, but that's a whole other thing. And then one for strictly plumbing, which we just talked about. The HVAC and boiler guy, he is the senior manager. We call him a general manager. He steps in and can run the board, can dispatch, get the right guys to the right job, run the show that way. And the plumbing guy is newer. He's learning that side of the business. And then we have field. I do have a shop guy as well, but he's part-time shop guy. Yeah, I've kind of dispersed all the admin roles across the CSR. So during their downtime, all the admin stuff, I feel like none of it's urgent, but it all is important. So we split up all of like the office manager type duties and we run it through the CSRs.
And who does payroll?
One of the CSRs. We have the backup CSR comes in and does payroll with us on Thursdays.
Do you have any salesmen?
Yes. Yeah, we have 2 salesmen. Except field people. But yeah, we have 2 salesmen. One kind of gravitates towards the plumbing, one kind of gravitates towards forced air, but technically they can run both.
And most of your most of your leads are coming through marketing channels, referrals.
About 80% of our leads are all existing customers, which is something that's pretty important to me. I try to market to our existing customers as hard as possible. I'd say new customers, make up probably 20% of our revenue, somewhere in that neighborhood. We don't do any. At first, I liked all the Angie Lead paid marketing stuff. I've actually really kind of gotten away from that lately. Big fan of direct mail now. We do. So what I've done lately is I have a targeted like customer list that I purchase, and we're mailing to them once a month and serving them display ads. And then we do some like local service ads, some pay per click, but most of it is direct mail or just building something organically.
I'm loving this interview because you are going against everything that's on the internet. This is
How
so
do you
great.
figure?
I feel
How
like
do you figure? I'm kind of curious. How do you figure?
no. This is so great. You're like, I'm good with Google. I don't need. We do direct mail too. I got no problem. I don't. What I'm saying is kindred spirits. Like,
Yeah.
I go unearth the big relationships with the chamber or a restoration company, or like I go a one to many, right? Like, don't get me wrong, we do ads and all that stuff too, but it's a long. It's the weirdest thing in the world. Okay, the service business creates the lowest amount of revenue in the business.
Sure. Yep.
But it generates the highest form of leads.
Yep.
That don't cost money.
Yep. That's exactly what we do
It's
as well.
the weirdest thing.
We have a whole lead flip process and everything.
Your service board is the indication of how healthy your company is.
Yes. Yeah, I would say so.
And nobody understands that. Or they do or they don't. Or but
there's so much private equity money out there. There's so many guys that like I call it dumb money. And like the easiest thing for them, it's clearly not dumb. These guys are smart and sophisticated. I don't want to do not underestimate your competition, but they've got deep pockets. They really do. And the best way, probably the easiest way to market is to just throw money at Google or Facebook. And okay, your cost per customer is going to be $800 to $1,000, but they've found a way to make that world work. My cost per customer is like 250, and I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm much more comfortable there. And like, I'm trying to find the marketing channels that like produce the high. Like, actually, no, sure. I'm glad we're talking, because I remember you were saying you were getting like a 6x return on your marketing spend, weren't you?
Oh, dude. No. You don't see. So my marketing company, they're amazing. There's a long story how we're connected, but they do about 150 companies. I said, you're not allowed to use our representation to your clients because y'all are going to get fired by everybody because they can't create what we are. But we're at a 22 and a half ROAS on GLS.
Return on marketing spend.
So yeah, and we're at I did it last. I did it last week. That's GLS. But on regular Google direct paid, we're a 6.89.
How? I mean, that's remarkable. I'm happy at like 3 or 4.
I mean, how is that? Is that there's an unsophistication in our current market of our competition. As we move into Ohio in this bigger market, that's going to be different. We hold a large percentage of the SEO market too. We're like 40% of it. So, but they're starting, there's bigger dogs rolling through. Companies just got bought. So it's happening, but I agree with you. Listen, the greatest day of my life was when our marketing company, we had a great month, right? On the return on ad spend. And I was like, well, what if we just dump like 10 more grand into it? And like, would that like triple it? And he was like, that's not how it works. You're not spending 10 extra thousand. And I was like, that's why I know you're the right marketing company.
Yeah. Well, no, so you're more of a rural market, right?
Yeah. So think of it this way. You've got 30 to 25 minutes per city, per small town. And you got like 15 of them.
Okay. Yeah. We saw similar return when we marketed just in Estes. Like it was like a 7% response rate to direct mail and something ridiculous, I feel like it's like a big untapped market to have like
like to be in these more rural areas. Like, yeah, you drive more and that sucks,
Well,
but that's the only
hey,
downside.
don't be telling. Hey, don't be telling everybody. No, listen. It's not. It's look. It can work for wherever. I got friends that have companies everywhere. But what's interesting to me, right, is it would be very hard for me because if I was in a Nashville or an Austin or even a San Antonio, it feels like a knife fight every day.
Yeah.
Like just who can spend the most. I don't think I want that.
No, it gets real risky. You get companies. There's some companies in Denver that have like really steered into it, and I'm convinced that like their closing rate's got to be around 20%. But what they do is they'll stack up like 7 calls a day on a plumber, knowing that they're only going to close 1 or 2 of them. And so they recognize they just got to rip through calls and get to one that actually sells. And no shade. I mean, it seems to work fine for them, but I think I can do better.
Well,
do different.
I tell you what'll blow you away. So we haven't, for the life of us, we couldn't find a financing partner that we liked. Everything was clunky. Rates were going up. Blah 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 blah. Well, if I told you that for a year and a half, our financing rates, meaning like percentage of people that financed for thing, was 2%.
Like your buy down rates, or like the number of customers that actually
No. The number of couples that actually financed was 2%.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
So we finally found a good partner, and we financed I think 20 projects already in like 4 weeks.
Yeah, the right one can do that.
Integrated with server side, right? And so there's so many. It's such a weird thing, right? I know the metrics of the company, but I don't look at the metrics like everybody else looks like, right? I see everything, but I don't touch everything. Okay. And so like my thing is like, I want to keep my pulse on where people are coming from. So then we can go find out where those places are and feed more of it. Right. So like, is this avenue over here working? Yeah, but that might change in 4 weeks. And so I think that a lot of people, especially when it comes to marketing, they just want to set it and forget it. It doesn't work like that.
No, it does not work that way. No, it's something. It's like a carburetor on a bad motorcycle. You have to always mess with
it. Yeah, 100%. And so if you had your dream scenario, and it's now you're a couple years in, and you're 5 million this year, where do you see yourself in 3 years? Kind of what's the move for you?
I am really focused on growing organically right now, growing through our marketing efforts. I'm not, I mean, like if the right company came along, we might try to acquire somebody, but really, I feel like if I can build a marketing machine that can generate, I mean, I'm not going to get 22x like somebody does, but if I could get, like 4 to 5, then it starts to make sense to dump money into this marketing machine. And then you've got something that works pretty much anywhere, right? So, I mean, if we can grow at a sustainable rate, 15, 20% over the next few years, and if we can develop that marketing machine, well, then a lot of things open up in year 2 and year 3. Like we want to open up. Like, didn't you guys do another location recently as well? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I start thinking about.
So we did, and there'll be a third in, next year at some point in another state, right over across the border. It's a wild to me. And I'm loving that you're saying this. It's so crazy to me what I would have bought before I bought this. Mm-hmm. And it's just easier to do it inside organically, even though it might take longer to stand up. I'm not going to pay a ridiculous, multiple when I can just create the mechanism from within inside my company.
Couldn't agree more. So I bought Mountain Valley at like a 2.5x multiple, 2.2, something like that. Hey, that's been one of the best things I've ever done. When you start getting in like the 4x, 5x range, maybe that works for private equity. I mean, clearly it does. They do stuff like that and more all the time, but it doesn't work for J.D. Beck, and growing we have to get to a certain point, Austin. Like both of us have gotten to the point where we're comfortable, we're paying our bills, things are working, we're making money, it's good. So maybe you buy to get yourself to that point, but then I like the idea of just
slow, steady growth. 15, 20% would be amazing.
We're on one thing right now, on one thing only: get above 10 million. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because there's the danger zone between 3 and 7, and so on and so on. So it's like, just get over there, and then once we stand up on top of there, we'll reassess and decide what the next kind of elevator is.
You're a pretty firm company at that point. One other thing that I think about a lot, I'm really trying to push service clubs pretty hard, service club memberships. I'm sure you guys have something similar to that. One of my goals is to have my service club revenue pay my overhead. I'm a long way from that, but
Yes.
I think that would be
Yes.
amazing, man. If you could have service club, and like, it really wouldn't be that many. I mean, it'd be like an order of magnitude more than I've got right now, but we've only really been pushing it for like 6 months. And I seem to have found like the value in the system and something that people like. And I'm starting to just hammer that membership thing. Every single marketing thing we send out. Oh, by the way, you could get this for free if you were a service club member. And I don't know. I think that would be a really good world to exist in, where you just have a bunch of service club memberships, and you've got 3 or 4 techs or whatever it is, and all they do is service club visits.
That is one of the things I thought about 2 years ago when we acquired. Like, that would be the ultimate goal, is if your service club can, not only that, then you're collecting cash monthly, or
Yeah.
however it breaks down,
Yeah.
where it's taking care of your overhead. Then you're stressed. Now everything else is benefit, right? And so
Yep.
we do commercial maintenance contracts, and those are $15,000 a quarter, $11,000 a quarter. But they've also turned into, I know, this year has turned into $1 million worth of revenue on expansions from those customers.
Yeah.
Right.
Those things turn out pretty good.
Yeah. And so that's the key, is that you just keep building that, and you keep figuring out the cheapest way to acquire a customer, but also build your revenue. I mean, you're not gonna go wrong from that point of view.
No. But it's nice to shift gears. Like last year, we were growing so fast that if like the wheels are going to fall off the bus any day. This is like, oh, look at this. I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know when I figure out what I'm doing. But if people want to reach out to you, they want to find you, how would they do that?
Do it through X, formerly Twitter. My handle is @DirtyHandsOps, which sounded cool when I first got it. Now it sounds weird. Or just shoot me an email, jd@mountainvalleyplumbing.com. We abbreviate mountain, so it's mtnvalleyplumbing.com. I help searchers all the time. Anybody else that wants to just chat about plumbing and HVAC. I chatted with a guy out of Wisconsin for like 90 minutes the other day. So, Sam, if you're listening, that was fun. Thanks.
So you could just tell people about your handle, that you're Mike Rowe's brother.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm like ZZ Top. I'm your cousin you don't know about.
Guys, if you like this episode, send it around to a friend, share us, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks, Austin.
Folks, if you made it to the end of the episode, I'm sure you found some value with what you're listening to. If you could send this to a friend, rate us and review us, share us around. The more that you share us, the more that we can share content with you. Thank y'all so much for your time and listening, and we'll see you next time.